The conversation you've been avoiding is louder than the one you keep having. So, welcome back to another episode of From Shadows to Strength. I'm Tyson, and Jay is in the room with me, and you'll be hearing from him along the way. So, guys, today we're going to be discussing the importance of communication in relationships. So, this can be family, romantic, your friends, your brotherhood, whatever it is. We're going to talk about the stories that you don't tell, that you don't discuss, right? And I think as men, this is something we all, I think, contend with to some way, shape, or form, right? The silence men have, we kind of default to that. We're not always open with the people we should be, the people that we're closest to, right? Because talking about maybe what we're thinking about, well, that's hard. And being quiet, that silence, it feels safe. It's what we know. But we have to realize it costs something. Now, a lot of the time, I think we're raised maybe by our fathers, or even myself. I wasn't really raised with a dad. Jay, I know you have your issues with your parents. You've talked about that pretty openly. And I think you've seen that the form of communication that you were given probably wasn't a healthy form of communication. And maybe the things that need to be said never were said. And the same thing kind of goes my way. I didn't have a father figure growing up. My grandfather, well, I guess, was a father figure. He struggled with communication. The way he communicated wasn't necessarily a healthy way to communicate. So then we default to just not talking. And that unspoken issue or story that we might have that we might need to talk about, well, that compounds, right? And every day you don't say it, that bill, it grows larger, right? We're kind of giving an analogy of it being a tab, right? You don't say something, well, there's the tab's building and building and building until maybe one day you implode because the bill comes due. So a few places I see it the most frequently, and Jay, again, I think you can probably agree with this. Marriage. So, the marriage where every conversation has been the same surface conversation for years. The friendship where you talk about sports for hours and never once talk about what's actually weighing on you. And of course, family. Well, you got the family dinners, right? Maybe on the weekends, or if you're, maybe still at home, if you're young listening to this, you talk about that surface level stuff, and nobody at the table has said a real thing in a really long time. So if you can't name what you feel, guys, you can't say it. If you can't say it, it can't be known. And the people who love you are loving a draft version of you instead of the actual man. So Jay, I'm going to ask you first before I go into some of my stuff. In the military, I'm sure you've seen men who've lived next to each other for months or even years, have served, and don't really say what's eating them. So from your world, what does that silence cost them, and what has it cost you?
Well, I don't know what it costs them, but yeah, like I've slept next to people on deployments in my team for 6.5 months, and I knew nothing about them. They knew what sports I liked, what interests me, what racing I wanted to see. I knew what activities they did, but I didn't know a single thing about their personal life. I didn't know where they grew up, their parents, if they had both, brothers, sisters, all that. And it's so funny that you bring it up because as a team, that never came up. Those conversations never came up. It was emotions we didn't want to talk about. It was issues we didn't want to cloud our judgment while we're overseas about to go do whatever mission we had. I don't know. Guys just, especially the Gen X generation and the old school military, how we were brought up with our parents. And most of the guys that join the military, it's mostly because their parents or their father, brother, or cousin, uncle, something like that was in the military. But yeah, we just never talked about that stuff. We just never. Even my close fire team partners, the guy that I did so much training with, everything else, I really didn't know about his parents or home life. It's just something we didn't discuss. And I didn't discuss mine. Yeah. And I don't know if it maybe would have helped my PTSD or sanity now or something like that. But but you don't know if you bring it up over there, maybe it's going to open floodgates or make it worse. So you don't want to open it up. You just want to stay in that nice kind of where every conversation's nice and happy. You know, when you're over there, you don't want any hard conversations. You don't want any, they already have enough stress on yourself. You don't want to open any doors, you know?
I can totally understand that. I mean, you've already got enough to deal with, enough to contend with, let alone some emotional stuff. So I can understand why a lot of the time maybe facing that or addressing that at that time is probably not a smart thing or something that you can do. But I think that's where that silence compounds, right? Where maybe someone is on tour with you and having some kind of relationship issue. Well, now's not the time to talk about it. But then they get home and it's still not the time to talk about it. And it compounds. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is just ignorance. You might be aware of the situation, but not talking about it, trying to, oh, it's not there. I'm just going to ignore it. Right. And if no one's aware of it, well, then you don't have to talk about it. You can just avoid it. But I can definitely understand. In prison, it's somewhat similar, I would say. Guys don't want to talk about the issues that they're dealing with because then they actually have to face the issues that they're dealing with.
Yeah. Like there's so many times I'll be overseas and then you'll come back from a mission or you come back from something and there's just an empty bunk space. There's about maybe 12 to 14 guys living in it. It's kind of like a big mod tent, but it's like a hard shelter and stuff. We just call it a mod tent. And then there's times you can come back and there's just an empty bunk space. And then you'll be like, where's so-and-so? Oh, he went back home. There's a whole bunch of shit going on. Family life, this. He can't take it anymore. It's gone. And we had no idea. Never said a word, never showed it, never let him affect anything he was doing. And none of us had any idea. And people like that overseas are just gone all the time. And you have no idea. Just one day they're there, one day they're gone. And you may never see them again. And that's how crazy it is. It may come to the point where you go back home thinking you'll see them when you get back home, back to Canada, and they're gone. They're completely gone. Whether they claimed a medical or it was so intense that they were hospitalized or they got out or something happened. Like, that's how severe it is. That's how much guys will hold back and not say a word till they just blow up.
Yeah. That I think for a lot of guys listening, I mean, you definitely have an extreme situation. I think we both have a lived experience that's different than most people, but the results are the same. Whether you're serving in the military, whether you went to prison, or even just the everyday guy who's just dealing with stuff, that silence is literally a silent killer. It kills you on the inside. How many times are we, driving to work and we're having that conversation in our head with our boss, with our employees, right? With our wife, with our kids, with our father, with our mother, with our brother, with our sister, with our best friend, whatever it is. We're having this conversation in our mind about what we should say, what we want to say, what needs to be said. But then we're trying to think of the right words. And we're going over that conversation. We're playing that conversation. We're thinking of like, well, what happens if I have this conversation? But the conversation, it never happens.
Yeah, no, never.
Never happens, right? The conversation that needs to happen, it doesn't happen. And days go by, weeks go by, months, right? And what happens? That relationship grows sour. You grow sour because of it. I think of my personal, I guess, story on this would have to be how I was with my ex. I mean, our communication was arguing and yelling insults at each other. It was the perfect example of how not to communicate with someone you care about. Right? Someone you're supposed to love. And when we did talk, it was always surface level. There was never any deep conversation. And I would say that so much was unsaid. And it's that old saying I always kind of bring up, that uncommunicated expectation creates premeditated resentment, right? I resented her for certain things. She resented me for certain things because I felt like she wasn't fulfilling her role. And I know I wasn't fulfilling my role. I wasn't a good leader. I wasn't a good mate. Again, we were toxic, right? We resented each other, but it was better that we resent each other than to face reality alone. And I think that's what happens for a lot of people. Even though you're unhappy and unfulfilled in a relationship and there's so much that needs to be said, it's like, well, I'd just rather live in this misery and know this unhappy reality than to face reality on my own. I mean, that's why I was really willing to let her back into my life, even after all that shit that we went through. So, guys, here's the part that most men don't see. The silence isn't actually protection. It's avoidance dressed up in masculine language. The people you love don't get the man that you actually are. They get like a curated version of them, right? Strength is never silence. Strength is being a man who can find the words and then deliver them without flinching. And that's hard. Because a lot of the time there's fear that what we're going to say isn't going to be received well. But where your fear is, that's where your task is. That's the conversation you need to have. So going into our next segment here, listening without defending. Now, this is a hard one, I think, for many of us. So most men listen to reply, then listen to understand. We are busy building our defense before the sentence of the person we're talking with, that we're maybe having this hard conversation with, before their sentence even finishes. So you've heard maybe a fraction of what they have to say to you, whatever they might feel. Well, you've already made your defense, right? We justify, we are explaining, and then we're deflecting. We hear our partner's first few words and we're loading our response. Here's the thing. Here's what nobody tells you, though, that the defense, it's not an argument. It's a response. Our nervous system is trying not to feel exposed. Your heart rate is over 100. Your prefrontal cortex is offline. You're not listening anymore. You're simply in survival mode. And nothing she says is going to land while you're in that state. So guys, understand that when your partner says something hard, your nervous system has 2 seconds to decide. You're either going to stay present in the moment or you're going to shut down. But as men, because again, this is, when it comes from someone you love, this is going to trigger an emotional response. And how many of us as men are healthy emotionally? We're not, right? Emotion's like a 4-letter word. We hear emotion like, oh, feelings. I don't want to talk about feelings. That's hard. Yeah, no shit. Of course it's hard. And then we shut down before that sentence that they're trying, or that issue that's trying to be communicated before it even finishes. So the body decides before the mind catches up. So I think about my personal issue with this would have to be when I first came out of prison, and Joelle and I actually, I guess you'd say this is where we started to have our first kind of arguments. But when I got upset with something, even though I had come a long way at this point, I still reacted poorly emotionally. I got defensive. I started pointing fingers, and I also started assuming. And the way I say assuming is that when Joelle gets upset, she shuts down. Not that she doesn't want to communicate, but she shuts down in the sense that she doesn't say anything. Now, I took this the wrong way because when I was 14, I don't know how many of the listeners know this, but when I was 14 in high school, I was caught shoplifting. I think that's where my life of crime started. But I got caught shoplifting. I was living still at home with my grandparents at this time, and my grandmother was like a second mother to me. She did a lot of of the raising that I needed when I was a kid because my mom was busy working as a single mother. Now, when she came to pick me up from being shoplifted, she gave me hell, and then she didn't talk to me for almost a year. She didn't say a word. And we lived in the same house. So that silence, people say, well, it's a form of emotional abuse, whatever it is, maybe to a degree. Yeah, that silence is deafening. So when Joelle would shut down, I automatically related that to how my grandmother shut down. Because I would have rathered my grandmother scream at me for a week than not talk to me for a year. So I had to actually figure out why I was feeling when Joelle would do this. And then almost forgive my grandmother for what was going on and realize that this isn't what Joelle was doing. Joelle was shutting down for a completely different reason. She was not saying anything because growing up, she watched how her parents were, and her mom just wouldn't say anything disrespectful or hurtful to her father. She felt that that's the way she wanted to handle things. So she would remain silent in order to gather her emotions and make sure she didn't say something that she couldn't take. So here I am being an ass, thinking that she's doing this to hurt me, when actually she's really trying to spare my feelings. She's doing the mature thing, and I acted the wrong way. So again, this is where communication is so important. And I had to learn this by asking her, why do you shut down? Kind of a hard conversation in itself. And she was just trying to spare my feelings. Tell you, when I found that out, I felt like an ass. Especially the way I reacted. So listening, gentlemen, it's a physical skill. It's not just a verbal one. We have to be able to breathe. And that's something that is hard to do when you're upset, right? Just, we always say when you're upset, just breathe. There's a reason for that, right? Control your breath. Drop your shoulders. Don't go into that aggressive posture. Loosen your jaw. Unclench your jaw. Unclench your fist, right? Body language carries over when someone might be saying or doing something that is triggering an emotional response in you, right? Because it triggers our emotional response, triggers a physical response as well. And then and only then are the ears going to open. Listening is staying with what was said long enough to feel it. If you guys can stay quiet through the discomfort, that's a huge win. And then make sure that when you ask a question, you're giving them time to respond and to listen to their response. So, Jay, you've been in rooms, I'm sure, where you might have known that the answer you were going to give was going to be a fight. And how do you respond with that? How did you respond maybe having that hard conversation with somebody?
No, that's never really bothered me. Because I have to
You
admit,
soulless bastard.
well, just in the military, man, like if somebody fucks something up and it becomes like a safety issue, or if someone went the wrong way and totally messed up the whole plan, or when we're doing shooting drills and someone, didn't follow the kind of training we do, I got no problems just saying what's on my mind and how it is and stuff. And then, yeah, they'll try to explain, how they, what they were thinking, why they did what they did and stuff like that. So my younger years, I wouldn't listen at all. I would just, like the old school army movies where you just tear them up. You don't want to hear a response or whatever. But later in my career, I got to the point where I was like, okay, why did you do this? I would actually ask them first before just coming aboard them. There are still times you still need to come aboard somebody. But when you get older, maybe a little wiser, maybe a little bit more patient, I'd be like, okay, I explained we're going to do this. Why did you do it like this? Why did you go left when I said right? Like, what were you thinking? Well, I don't know. It's maybe when you start to realize that listening helps you as well, and not just a one-way conversation isn't going to go anywhere. Because if you just come aboard somebody and just give it to him and tell him how dumb and he's wrong or whatever, some guys like the older school generation will just step up and kind of swallow that pride and get better. But I find nowadays, you know how they say, you get more bees with honey than shit, all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of like if you ask them and try to understand what their brain is processing and why they're processing in a certain way, you can fix them better. It's like training. Training used to be just shut up and lift the way they tell you to lift. Well, now I've seen it change in you even from when we first started. It's like you try to ask me, okay, why do you want to lift like this? Why does your shoulder go like that? Like, why do you feel more comfortable putting this swing in instead of doing this, And then I explain to you and you're like, oh, okay, makes sense. And then we talk about it and, makes for a better training session. But yeah, I find the listening part you don't get till you're older.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish I got it when I was younger, but the listening part doesn't come till you're older. And I don't know how to tell people, to try to listen more, to try to understand the other person more and stuff, because your brain just won't let it happen. It won't let it happen until you get older and wiser and been through some shit, And I wish my brain would. I wish my brain was different from when I was younger. I probably wouldn't have had as many struggles with my parents and brothers and family members and stuff like that. But when you're younger, you are stubborn. You got your feet dug into the fucking dirt and you have your line in the sand and you don't care about anybody else's line and you're defending your line. Even if it's wrong, you're still dumb enough to defend your line even though it's wrong because in your brain you think it's right.
Yeah. I was watching, I forget who did the post, whether it was Joe Bennett, the hypertrophy coach. I think it was him. And I think he was working with Chris Bumstead. Now, I think everyone listening to this podcast arguably knows who Chris Bumstead is, right? He is, one of the most famous classic bodybuilders and I think 5-time Mr. Olympia champion for the classic bodybuilding division. So yeah, everyone who lifts weights knows who Chris Bumstead is. Plus he's Canadian boy. The one thing that I found really cool was watching the video. Now, arguably this guy could say, I know, and no one's going to bat an eye because of the physique and the career he's built. But here he is working with a coach, a trainer, and he's giving him instruction on what he wants him to do and why he wants him to do it. Now, do you think Chris is arguing with him that he knows better? That, well, look at my body, look at yours. Right? No. He's standing there, ears open, taking in everything that this coach, very knowledgeable coach, is saying to him, and he's applying it. I want you guys to think for a second, how far do you think, now, even with great genetics, how far do you think someone like Chris could have gotten without the proper guidance and tools? The right people around him. He probably still would have made it pretty far, but I don't think he would have gotten quite as far without having the right people in the room. Because you can only go so far on your own. So if he needs a coach, if he needs a mentor, if he needs a trainer, an advisor to help him better a movement or improve some aspect of his life in some way, shape, or form, why wouldn't we want to accept direction from someone who has actual lived experience, not just theoretical, but lived practical experience? I was always just, like when I was watching that video, I was like, man, this dude could literally just be like, look at my, like, what do you know? You're half my size, bro. No. He looked like he's still a student. He's still looking to learn from the best. So guys, when it comes to communication, listen to, Listen to Jay. You don't always get it when you're young. And you're right, Jay, when you said that we will dig our feet in. I mean, I was the same as you. I knew everything. I didn't know jack.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything. I didn't have any lived experience. Like young men, especially any young men that are listening, or even maybe guys who are a little older, but maybe still immature in this aspect. Like, listen to us. We're not saying this to bust your balls. We're saying this so you can improve arguably probably one of the most important areas of your life. And like just little moves that you can make mid-conflict right now can save you so much. Like think about some things you can say mid-conflict, right? Like, let me try that again. Maybe you said something and you see, the minute you say something to your spouse or maybe again your boss, your coworker, whoever you're having this difficult conversation, you said it the wrong way. Just so you know, you can try again. You can be like, you know what? I'm sorry that came out wrong. Can I try that again? But we don't. We double down on our stupidity. It's like, let me put my foot further down my throat. Please, I love the taste of feet.
That's probably the best thing I've ever heard. We double down.
We double down, right?
Yeah.
We do. Instead of just catching ourselves and being like, oh man. Because I mean, look, what we say, remember how, I literally just finished saying when someone comes at us maybe with an issue, we tense up, right? I'm sure that the person talking to us can see the vein pulsating on my forehead when you say the thing I don't want to hear. So it's up to them, but it's mostly up to us because we can't control what someone else is saying. We can control what we say. So let me try that again. Or can we slow down? Now, I know as men, when we're teenagers, we don't say that too often on our dates. Hey, can we slow down? But when it comes to a conversation, this is a key part to put it in. Can we slow down? Can we take a second? And another one kind of goes with the first one. I'm sorry. That came out wrong. Acknowledge that you said the wrong. That old biblical principle, treat others how you wish to be treated. We can tame every beast, every wild beast underneath the sun, right? Man has been able to pretty much hunt lions, elephants, right? Orcas. Train these animals that are capable of killing a human being quite easily. We've trained them. Yet, you know what's interesting? We haven't been able to bridle our tongue yet. Of all the things we've been capable of doing, we still can't control what comes out of our mouth. And men, you need to understand, like couples who repair stay together. Couples who don't. Right? You can win. When I read this, I had to put it into the podcast. You can win every argument and still lose the relationship. I'm going to say that again. You can win every argument and still lose the relationship. And that's math that nobody teaches. Yeah, you got a 100% win rate. And you've also got a 100% fail rate when it comes to your relationship. So what do you want? You want to always be right? Doesn't seem like a good trade-off to me. So here's something for the audience that you might want to jot down. This is something that came from some research from specialists. So one was Gottman. I want to quote their names here because, again, I didn't come up with this. So Gottman found that the first 3 minutes of a fight predict the outcome with 96% accuracy. That's actually pretty crazy. Those are pretty good odds to determine how your fight's going to go. So remember, first 3 minutes is going to predict the fight's outcome to 96% accuracy. So if you have a soft start, right, you have a soft end. If you have a hard start, no recovery. No chance of recovery there. You remember when you have those really bad fights, Jay, I'm sure you've been there. You've had a really bad argument with somebody. You have to stop the argument. You're going to end the argument. Nothing's going to be resolved. You're going to have to have that conversation later on when cooler heads have prevailed, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Why? Because you had a hard start. There's no recovery from that point. So guys, if you just learn soft start, soft end. You don't have to then have this same hard conversation a second or a third or a fourth time if you do it right, if you start it right the first time. Next, there's a 4-part sentence, and I'm going to share this. This is with Marshall Rosenberg's Nonviolent Communication, but this is a woman who adapted it for men's vernacular because we're special. So she said you need to own it, name it, ask it, and then hold it. So own it, what she means by this is I'm the one feeling this, not you make me feel. So again, we're trying not to point the finger. We're just trying to express what we're feeling. The moment you outsource your feelings, so again, the minute you point the finger, you've lost the conversation. Conversation's over. Next is that name it, right? So be specific about what. Not vague labels. Actual content, right? Hurt, scared, ashamed, lonely. Pick a real word that you're actually feeling. Right? So name what the emotion is as being, I hate this word, but being triggered. Everyone says triggered now. But name what you're feeling. Next is ask it. Will you stay in this with me? Can we talk about it tonight? Make it a real ask, guys. Not a demand wrapped in a question, but just a real ask. Last, hold it. Don't take it back when they push back. Right? Repeat. Different words, same answer. The first time you negotiate the truth, you've already lost it. So the thing is, right, if you have to have this hard conversation, don't start backpedaling. I've worked with guys that I've mentored. I've told them you need to have a hard conversation with the person that you're with. And then when I ask them how did that hard conversation go, their feedback is not always what I'm hoping to hear. A lot of the time, they went to make their stand and then they started to backtrack. They couldn't hold the line. So hold your line, guys. And here's what most men get wrong. They think the hard thing is a word, but it's not. The hard thing is staying in the room after you've said them. Staying when your wife's quiet, when she's quiet. Staying when she's angry. Staying when she's hurt. Staying when she pushes back. Far too often, I see people, well, I can't take this, and they storm away. Like, what are you, 2? This is where, again, man, your real strength is not in your physical abilities. It's not how much you bench. It's not how much you deadlift. It's not how much you squat. Jay, it's not how much you curl. No, but it's in your ability to stay in these uncomfortable emotional situations with the people that you say you love. Now, would you want someone to storm out of the room when you're having something you need to talk about? Maybe you tell someone you love something you need to say, and then they're like, you know what? Not right now. They storm out of the room. Like, how would you feel? Would you feel heard, respected? For men, I think that's the biggest thing, right? If you want your man to feel happy, maybe for any female listeners right now, show him respect, just like he should be showing you respect. It's a two-way street. Communication, respect, it's a two-way street, guys. So before I get into a little bit more, Jay, I'm going to get you to speak. Jay, if you're thinking of maybe week 1, maybe this, again, maybe not from a personal, but if you were to maybe listen to everything I'm saying right now, if you can't come from a personal standpoint, If you think of week one for a man who's never said the hard thing to his partner and he actually tries, what does maybe the night before? Because I think, we're always thinking about things. I'm sure you've had these moments where you're thinking about things that need to be said, these hard conversations. So what does that moment look like maybe the night before when he's preparing, and what happens the moment after he says it?
Yeah. You can think of it, I don't know, you can always have to use like my past job or something like that as experience,
Yeah, for sure.
because what I fall on. To go back a little, I find that thing started like 15 years ago or 20 years ago where some people online said, oh, if you're ever in an argument, just walk away. Walk away and diffuse the situation. Remember that? That was the biggest advice we ever got from everybody is walk away and you diffuse the situation and then everything will be hunky-dory. What had to be the biggest bullshit, useless advice I've ever heard in my life. Because everything I've ever walked away from has just sat in the goddamn closet waiting for me to come back. Every fight, every argument, every disagreement with boss, coworkers, whatever. So that whole walk away, take yourself out of the situation and come back to it later is useless advice and doesn't work. And yeah, like we had bosses in the military, these officer types, and just people that you would not want to command you when things go south, when things go wrong. And then we've had discussions, and you see it in like old World War II movies and stuff like that, where the sergeants or the troops get together and they're like, I will not follow that man in combat. He is incapable of leading. He is incapable of this. And you go to bed the next night knowing that you're going to go talk to your superior and say, we as a group will not follow that man in combat. And you go through every goddamn scenario in your head. You don't sleep. You run it through over and over and over again. And then how it happens the next day is nothing like how you thought was going to happen. Never. Because you've played so many scenarios in your head. You've gotten yourself so worked up. You've gone down the rabbit hole so bloody deep that, you just mess yourself up, completely mess yourself up. And if you would just sit in a room with maybe the group of guys where there's a problem and learn to talk and learn to listen and stuff like that, but it doesn't happen. It does not happen when you're young. Everybody is, like you say, everybody is right. Everybody knows the best. It's the same reason why look at NHL and NFL and everything. You think any of those coaches ever played on the big leagues? Like, I don't think there's a single coach in football or NHL or NFL, all that sort of stuff, that ever played on a team. Like Wayne Gretzky was a coach for a bit, and he was a horrible coach. Wayne Gretzky tried to coach a team, and he was horrible at it. He didn't last, but he was an excellent player, and he listened to his coach. So you need that coach. You need that somebody to teach you. Even though you're one of the best hockey players in the world at the time, he still had a coach. And not every best player in the world will automatically be a good coach. It doesn't, if you're great at what you do, it doesn't mean you're going to be a great coach. Like, I don't know how many friggin' ex-athletes have tried to coach and they were horrible at it and they didn't last and they got fired. Just because you're a great player doesn't mean you can coach, And I've seen some of the coaches I see in NFL and everything, they look like they're about to have a heart attack on the sidelines, for Christ's sake.
Especially in football.
Jesus,
yeah.
Like, I don't think they've played a football game since like grade school or something, but they're excellent coaches and they know what to do for coaching. But they couldn't play. They couldn't do any of that stuff they're saying. But if you listen to them, you'll become a great player. And some of the best military advice I got were from the coaches, the mentors that I actually listened to. But so many people in the military now, or so many people in life now, don't want to listen to mentors, don't want to listen to coaches because they believe they know more than those people. So they're like, I know how to win this argument, or I know what I need to say to that person. I know how this argument is going to go. No, you don't, because you're only listening to what you want to hear in your brain. And like you said at the beginning, you already have your answer even before they're finished speaking. So as soon as they open their mouth, you already have your answer, and then you're just, all you hear for the rest of their conversation. You're completely tuned it out already, and you've already failed. You've already going to strike out, and you've already failed. Sorry if I go off topic here. I ran sometimes.
No, that's You're right. I don't think every person who can coach. Some people can. It's going to always come down to your ability to communicate,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that's hard, because especially you might see someone doing something that you've told them not to do. You know, as a coach, you're watching your team from the sidelines, right? You're watching them from the bench, and they're doing everything the wrong way. You told them one way, they're going to do it their way, because whether they maybe didn't understand the call, the play, or they just think that they know better, right? And that does create a problem, because communication is essential. Whether you're in the military, whether you're in a high level sport capacity, whether you're in a relationship. I mean, you said it perfectly. You can go over what you want, and you will. When you're facing a tough situation, I think of my time when I was going to before the parole board. Like, my life as I knew it was fundamentally in the hands of this parole board, these people sitting across the table from me. Now, my lawyer, they try to prep you, right? Everyone who's serving life, or even regular inmates, they'll meet with their lawyer prior to going before the parole board, and they'll kind of coach you and let you know what the parole board is going to ask you, what potential things they might want to talk about. So they give you questions to prepare for and different things like that. And you know what? Every single time that I did this prep before I went before the parole board, I went before the parole board, I want to say four or five times. And every time, whatever I prepared to say, and I remember the first couple times I took a lot of notes off of what my lawyer said when they gave me the questions, when they left me with the questions. I went back to my cell and I was writing them out vigorously, like what I should say verbatim. Do you know how many of those things I actually said? What do you think, Jay? Think I said one thing?
None.
None.
Absolutely none.
Not one. So
Yeah.
I did all this preparing in my head because my life technically kind of depended on it. My freedom at least depended on it. My life as I knew it depended on it. And not one thing that I overthought and replayed and imagined actually happened that way. Not one. Right? I realized going into the last hearing. Now, yeah, I still thought about it. I mean, it's not that you can turn your brain off. So guys, don't think that I'm telling you not to think about it, because number one, it's literally impossible. It's okay to think about things. It's natural to worry about things. This is what fear does, right? Fear of the unknown, how they're going to react, what you're going to say, how you're going to respond, all those things. These are normal things that we're going to go through. You can't turn that off. Right? This is hardwired into not just our brain, it's hardwired into our DNA. But you can do you can try to do a practice run for a week, right? You can pick some small things, not the big things, but maybe some small things, and just get used to saying it. Right? That was one thing that I found that helped, is I would practice the things that might be hard to say in case I had to say it. And that's kind of what I did towards the end, is like, knowing I had to say the hard things allowed it to be easy for me to say the hard things when time actually came. So whether I was saying that to my parole officer, my correctional officer, the parole board, my wife, and clients. You know how many hard conversations I've had to have with clients? Because everyone's being told what they want to hear. I mean, we live in a society today where it's okay to be fat. You go, girl. You wear it, queen. Shit.
Yeah.
Conversations I've had with guys with bigger boobs than most women. Oh, no, it's okay. No, it's not, man. No. You're not in a good place. You can't tell me that you're respecting yourself by getting to this point. And I do my best to be empathetic and to encourage. But at a certain point, I can't keep doing that if you're not willing to do the work. If you're not willing to kind of address the elephant in the room. Because most people, they see the elephant in the room, but they just move it to the corner. So it's
Yeah.
less awkward to get around. The elephant's still there, though.
Oh yeah, look at me with my elephant, my PTSD, anxiety, depression, whatever. I moved that elephant in every fucking room that I had in the house to hide that thing. I buried it under everything. I buried it outside. I I stuck that
It's
thing
still there.
everywhere, and it kept coming out. You know. Yeah. And like you said before, it's like look at me with you. Like I'm in great shape and stuff like that. And people ask me all the time, why do you have a trainer? I'm like, just because I'm in great shape doesn't mean I don't need a trainer. It doesn't mean I don't need help. I don't need more education. And then people ask me all the time, why don't you be a trainer? I could not be a trainer. I don't have the patience. I don't have I don't have like the understanding that you do in the science and in injuries and stuff like that. I could never be a trainer unless the person signed a waiver for me saying that they can't sue me when I go full ballistic on them like a military basic training thing. But I can't be a trainer because I don't have that part that you have where you can listen and understand and, dissect with them and stuff like that. Like everybody thinks anybody can be a trainer. They can't. Just because I do a weekend course at the YMCA doesn't make me a trainer. I may have the certificate, but that doesn't mean anything. Like you said, you need to be a therapist, a psychiatrist, knowledge of weights. You need all that to be a successful trainer nowadays. And then people have this thing about fear. They think fear is like a bad thing. Oh, I can't. If you're scared, you're weak. Fear is a normal thing. Being scared is fine, but having courage to overcome the fear and keep going, that's who makes you who you are. Like everybody's. I know people that get scared before we go on a mission, before we go shooting, before we do a competition. Being scared is fine. But you have the courage in you to overcome your fear. And that's what makes you a man, a woman, a strong person. That's what gives you that fight in you to keep going in life. So it's fine to be fearful. It's fine to be scared before you do stuff. But you will reach down, find that courage and overcome that fear and keep going. And the more you do it, the stronger you will become and the more successful you will become. I guarantee it. Can't guarantee anything in life, but I can guarantee if you overcome your fears with your own courage, you will dominate in this life, especially nowadays. You see this shit coming out in the workforce nowadays, the slightest little fear they have, they run home. They can't do it. They don't even try to find courage. If you're a young person now or even an older person struggling, if you find some courage to help you with your fear, watch how successful you'll become. You take
Yeah, well said.
you take a severely overweight person, the amount of courage that person needs to overcome fear, to walk into 613 gym, go up to your office and say, Tyson, look at me, I need help. You know what kind of courage that takes for that person to do that? Saying, I've lost myself, I've lost my way, I'm on all this medication, diabetes, I'm about to have a stroke, heart attack, whatever, I need help. That takes a hell of a lot of courage, And I'm not just and that's why I don't want people to think, oh, you just need that courage for military or this, that. No, you need it in everyday life, every day to overcome.
Yeah, we talk from, you talk from military, I talk from prison, but it's relatable in every aspect. Like so many young guys in the comments on a lot of my videos, I talk a lot to young men. And the common theme I get in the comments, especially on this one post I did that went pretty viral, over like 200,000 views. And, anyways, I was pretty impressed that it got that many views. I wasn't expecting it. But the majority of the comments were young men saying, I'm scared. I'm scared.
Yeah. And it's fine.
And you're right. Yeah. That's the one thing I think that young men, or even men that are a little older, that maybe haven't learned yet, is that, like you said, fear is natural. The only difference between, again, one difference between a man and a boy is going to be the men acknowledge that fear is normal. It's not something you grow out of. There's not like some point in your life where you're like, oh, I'm not afraid anymore. No, of course you're still going to be afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, I was afraid every single time I walked in in front of the parole board. Right? I was scared. Hell, I was scared the night I proposed to my wife. Some of the best things that's happened to me in life, I was scared out of my mind. But I took that step because that's where my task was. That's what I needed to do. When fear, when those hard conversations, your head's ringing, don't do it, don't do it. Listen to your gut. Listen to your gut.
If people think I wasn't scared of my first tour, like if people think I wasn't scared before my very first motorcycle race, when I signed my contract and I was pro and I went for my first motorcycle race, all I had was plain white toast in the morning. And I couldn't even shove a piece of white toast in my jaw to chew it, to swallow it without dry heaving, because I had so much fear before my first race, before my first deployment. I remember on the plane, I had so much fear, but I had the courage to overcome that fear, and I didn't let fear win, and I ain't telling anybody fear's not strong. Fear's strong as shit. And it's well prepared. It knows you. It knows how to push your buttons, and it's going to try to win every time. But I'm trying to tell people, the more you conquer your fear, the 10 times more successful you'll be in life. You will dominate if you can, conquer your fear. Dominate.
Jay's word of the day: dominate.
I'm done. I'm gonna get a shirt made
Jay,
up.
stand up and do the belt for everyone. Stand up and do the belt. That's Jay's go-to when he's at the gym and he dominates on like an arm movement. He gets up, he looks at me, he's like, "Yeah, well, who's got the belt?" Oh, yeah. He's like, "Yeah, Jay, you got the belt. You're right. You're right."
It's the heavyweight championship belt, and people put it over your shoulder when you conquer your fear. Tap that belt like the champs
tap that
do.
Belt, baby.
Yeah,
bring that belt. Tap that belt. You're the man. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Those are really, really good points, and I think that's going to hit home for a lot of guys that are listening. And again, even for any female listeners, fear is normal, and there's something to be said about this. If we're going to go back to this communication aspect, if you've been thinking about a sentence longer than 30 seconds and you still haven't said it, you're not preparing. You're avoiding. I would rather you say it imperfect rather than swallow it perfectly. And I think this goes even with a lot of the people, people that are trying to create content. The one thing I stopped trying to do was to say it perfectly.
Yeah.
Don't worry about being embarrassed.
It's like when you asked me to do the podcast, I said, "Tyson, I suck at reading scripts and all that." And you're like, "No, I want you to be just who you are, be natural." I'm like, "Okay," because I'll probably swear, I'll stutter, I'll probably be all over the place, I'll go on rants. And you're like, "Hey man, I think that's what our listeners need. They need this non-scripted, raw individuals that have struggled through life. And now they're just trying to help out some young males, females, who's ever listening out there,
I'd take care of writing the script for us in order for us to have that outline. But yeah, I mean, besides some points that I want to drive home to the audience, yeah, what we say is just unscripted. It's from the heart. I mean, I think that's what's lacking in today's society is heart. So our next segment, repair after damage. So again, we've said the thing we probably shouldn't have said. We have our foot in our mouth. Now we get to the part that most men never learn. I mean, again, you will learn it, men, I think, at a certain point, hopefully. But this is as you mature, like Jay and I. Sometimes you don't learn it until you're in your 40s, 50s. The repair after damage. And the thing is, if you think about an apology, and I can relate to this, a lot of the time, apologies, they don't repair. They explain. Don't ever say, "I'm sorry, but." If you ever say that, you just messed up. Your foot's even further down your mouth. Don't ever put the word "but" in there. "I'm sorry, but." That's not an apology. That's a defense. With the word "sorry" stapled in front. Don't ever say, "I'm sorry, but." See, the worst thing. Repair has 3 parts. Again, this is coming from some research I did. So I'm going to share this with the audience. Note this, please, if this is something you need to work on. Name the harm. So first one, name the harm. Own it without any excuses. And after that, ask what they need. So name the harm. Say what specifically you did and what specifically it costs. Don't say, if I hurt you, you know what hurt them. We're not stupid. So guys, don't act like, well, what did I say that hurt you? You know what you said. Own it. Okay? Name the harm. Next, own it without excuse. No, but I was tired. No, but you also. No. Own the harm with no second clause. And no finger pointing. No easy out. This is about extreme ownership. This is about accountability. This is your responsibility, guys. And then again, your last one, ask what they need. Not what you think they need. And I'm not saying don't go out and get them flowers. Yeah, if you messed up, put your foot in your mouth. Yeah, it's not a bad thing to do there, guys. And it might open the door to a conversation because it happens. So go get the roses or have the roses delivered. But don't do what you think. Ask and then listen. For the love of God, when you ask your wife or your spouse or whoever you love that you hurt, once you ask, listen. Listen to understand, not listen to reply, not listen to excuse. Listen to understand. That skill is transferable in all aspects of life. As a husband, as a father, as a boss, as any hat you might wear. It is absolutely transferable. It is a life skill that is, if you can do that, that is a huge flex. And it really increases your stock as a man because we struggle there. And guys, understand, this was one thing I had to learn myself. And Jay, I'm sure you can agree with me on this one here. Most of us think that an apology is just one and done. It's like one shot, right? We say sorry, we get the forgiveness, and we move on. But that's not how it works for the person that we hurt. Okay? They need to see you kind of with the harm. Acknowledge it. It's not just one and done. Like I said, it's not just, hey, sorry, we good now? They were uncomfortable, so sit with them in the discomfort. That's owning it. Don't flinch. Don't shy away from it. Don't leave the room. Hey, Jay, right? You said that before.
Yeah.
This is uncomfortable. I'm out. I need 5 minutes. No. You made the mistake, not them. You sit with it. Don't flinch. Don't run away. Don't negotiate or minimize into something smaller. And then you need to understand that the repair, so after the damage, the repair takes longer than the harm.
Yeah.
That's the math. There is math to this. I hate math.
The world is math. The world is math.
But yeah, but it applies, right? If the harm took 5 minutes, the repair is probably going to take 5 days. If the harm took 5 years, the repair is going to take decades. Decades. You don't get to set the same timeline, guys. Oh, it was just a fight. You're only upset for an hour. Well, then she probably has the right to be upset for at least a week.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
And I hate keep bringing up my parent thing, but my parents have used that excuse on me. Oh, it was a couple years. Yep. And I'm 51 and I haven't grown. I haven't matured enough to let that one pass yet. And I'm still working on that. You know what I mean? But my parents dropped that on me. It was a couple years. It was a couple rough years. Okay. You know, I worked on a lot of shit, but I'm still working on that one.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Bro, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'd rather you acknowledge the hurt that you're still contending with than ignore the hurt that you
Yeah.
need to let go of. That in itself allows you an opportunity to heal. And I wish more men understood that. Like, forgiveness is not it's not easy. It's not just like this linear thing. Like, oh, I do this, it's all good. It just
Yeah.
no. It's this. This
Yeah.
is forgiveness. Because you might forgive, but then you have a dream, you have a memory, you have something that triggered the event,
Yeah.
and it stirs up old emotions, stirs up old feelings, and there it is, right back to square one. So I mean, if it happens to us, why wouldn't it happen to the ones we love?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it happen to our wives? Why wouldn't it happen to our kids? Why wouldn't it happen to our brother or sister that we hurt, or our best friend that we hurt? If it happens to us, we need to remember that.
Yeah. And I swear, because there'll be times I go to bed, like I haven't thought about whatever happened in my childhood for months. And then one day I could go to bed and have a dream about it out of nowhere, have a dream about it and stuff. The next morning I wake up and I am riled up like it just happened. Like it's there, it's front and center and stuff like that. So yeah, and I used to think, oh, I'm the only one who thinks like that. I'm the only one who gets these dreams years afterwards and stuff like that. And then I found out that a lot of vets do, and a lot of other people struggling with whatever they're going through do, from talking with my psychiatrist and stuff like that. So yeah, if I could tell your listeners, like, you are never healed. It's once somebody says, oh, okay, you're healed now, you're never healed. It's a constant fight. You know, it's a constant where feelings are going to come in and you got to fight them back down, or you got to do whatever you did before to win, you know, win over the fear, get that courage and win again. But it is a constant struggle. And you may have 6 months of beauty in your life, 6 months of beauty, smiling every morning. And then out of nowhere, you get kicked right back in the stomach. And you have no idea why, because nothing's changed. But that's the facts of life, and that's what's going to happen. Shit's going to keep coming back up. You know, that pink elephant is going to be like, hey, hey. You know what I mean? That elephant in the room is going to be like, I wonder if I could come over there now, you know? Yeah. And I don't
It's
know
going to
why.
let itself back in.
Yeah, I have no idea why it does it. I don't know why our brains work in the way they do, but they do. And yeah, you're going to have to fight it your entire life. Just like I'm sure it's the same as somebody that was majorly obese, lost a bunch of weight. I bet you they have to fight every day not to go back to eating like the way they used to, not snacking, not, you know, sugar dependent, not whatever. A drug addict, an alcoholic, all those people. I'm sure it's a fight every single day not to go back. And they may have been sober for 10 years. I know people that have been sober for 10 years and they can't even look at alcohol, can't even look at it because they know they'll fall back in that trap so easily. And they haven't had anything in like so long. So yeah, it's a fight. It's a fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, as men, I think that's what we're designed for.
Yeah.
We're designed for the fight. And I think, you know, you said something a couple of minutes ago that really, really stuck with me, right? You talked about healing. Now, when you've been shot how many times, Jay?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Enough. Jay's been shot. You were hit by an IED, right? You almost lost your life a few times. Now, I'm sure you got scars, right? Right? Your body healed, but what did it leave?
Yeah, the superficial scars heal easily. The mental scars and everything else, and
But there's always a scar nonetheless.
Yeah.
So whether it's physical, right? You got hurt, there's a scar. Mentally, you get hurt. Even if you forgive, you don't forget because there's a scar that's left. There's a reminder about the pain that was caused, the pain that was inflicted, the trust that was broken. Whatever it is. I mean, I had half my sternum cut out when I was 26 because I had cancer. Now I'm in pretty good physical shape. But you know what? Still to this day, I'm 46. 20 years later, it's still the only thing I see when I take my shirt off. Still the only thing I see. It took the longest time for me to let my wife touch there without me flinching. Every time she would touch there, I would flinch, and I would just, in my head, I wouldn't say it, but in my head, I'm just like, move your freaking hand. Don't touch me there. It's not her. It's not my beautiful wife I'm mad at. It's myself. It's that discomfort, this physical scar. That's all I can see. I still struggle with it to this day. It impacts me mentally. This physical scar affects my mental health. And maybe some people are like, God, just let it go, Tyson. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I get that
I
all
wish
the
it were
time.
that simple.
Yeah, I get that all the time. Oh, man, just let it go. It's cool. No.
Yeah, just let it go.
Well, when we talk in the gym about my head, how I cannot stand anybody touching my head from all the trauma I've had, concussions, IEDs going off, bombs and stuff. Like, if I bang my head in the gym, you know how it sends me into a friggin' whatever, like a tyrant if I bang my head. You know, I
I
bang
can
my
see
head.
you having to suppress it. I remember you bumping your head once on that reverse pec on the pec deck upstairs. Remember you got up, you banged your head.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to explode.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything. Everything tensed up like you're just repressing this rage. And I was like, bro, you okay?
Yeah.
You explained that, and I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I get that.
I cannot stand any concussions or banging my head or anything like that at all. Can't stand it now. Yeah, it puts me in an automatic rage, and I just want to smash everything when that happens. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It's some things that just don't go away. And this is what I think is so important for our listeners to understand. Like, if this is how I feel, if this is how Jay feels, guys, if this is how you feel in some way, shape, or form, because every person listening can relate in some way, shape, or form. If this applies to us, then we need to be empathetic to those around us, to the people we've hurt, intentionally or unintentionally. All right. We also need to understand that when these issues happen to us, so I'm talking more from like when someone maybe says something to us and we take it the wrong way, or even maybe we say something and it's taken the wrong way. If all you're focusing in is that hurt, then the relationship is going to be lost. We have to understand that a relationship is bigger than the moment itself. Yes, it takes time. Like I said, 5 days. Sorry, 5 minutes you upset someone, 5 days to heal. It takes time, but we have to remember overall, like, give it that time, because the relationship should be worth more than the 5 days of having to make up for your stupidity. It should be anyways. Because the man who can repair a relationship and allow for that repair to happen is a man who can be trusted with the next hard conversation. Like, that's important to understand. So to wrap this up, Jay, when it comes to brotherhood, I think some of us, we have maybe a small list. I know you and I, we have a very small amount of people in our life that we would call if something broke. Maybe physically or maybe metaphorically. But most people, right, they don't have that. They don't have that person to reach out to when they're really struggling. If you're to think from your experience, again, this can be military, how does a man build that conversation muscle? with another man. And why does that matter?
Man, that's a tough one. Like,
Well, think about you and V,
well, I was going to
right?
say, like,
Yeah.
the me and V, like, is the perfect example, but it just happened naturally. Like, I don't know what made us the best friends in the world. Like, I don't know why that bond was there or whatever. Just, and we had a 20-year age difference, and he was my best friend in the whole wide world. And I don't know why. I don't know. It's not like we sat down late at night when we first got to know each other and had these in-depth talks about stuff. We just bonded right away. We became great friends, same interest, our mentality, our sense of humor, the way we trash talked each other, joked around. It was just perfect. It's just, and then as we became more friends or better, closer friends, then we got into the deep shit, and then I knew I had someone to call no matter what I was going through, as he showed up at my house when I was almost hospitalized and like, yeah, it's like, but I don't know why. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It just happened. You can't force it. You just find that person and it just clicks. I don't know. I don't know. And it's like, it's so weird because it's the worst memory in my life, but it's the best memory in my life. you
ain't
know?
that ain't that how life goes, man? It's
Yeah.
like here you are sharing arguably one of the most hard topics you can talk.
Yeah. But I
It's your heart.
love I love talking about him. But I still get upset about it. Like 4 years, we're coming up to 4 years since he passed, and it still kills me to talk about him. But I love talking about him. It just, for some reason, that stupid emotion comes out of me and it makes it hard
It's
to
not
talk
it's not a
about him.
stupid emotion, bro.
Yeah.
That's your love.
Yeah.
That is not, don't minimize, that is a beautiful emotion to see. And I don't think there's any guy listening to this right now. I don't think there's any listener right now who thinks any less of you because you're getting emotional about someone your brother that you loved and that you lost. That's a pain I think we all know, and that's all too familiar for too many people.
But yeah, he showed up at my door. He saved my life, knocked on the door, wouldn't leave till I opened it. And he did all that for me. All that for me without even asking, without even hinting to him, not even hinting in a text that I needed help. He just knew. He showed up. He was there for me. He took me on one of the best trips I've ever done in my life. We road tripped to Texas to fix me. Like, you want to fix yourself? You go in a car with your best friend for 27 hours one way, and you're going to fix shit. You know what I mean? You're going to talk about shit, and you're going to fix shit.
You got nothing to do about time to talk.
Yeah.
Like that's all you're gonna do.
Yeah, and we
You can
did.
sit in the silence, but
Yeah, and he talked to me the whole goddamn way. We talked and we fixed a lot of stuff. We put so much shit out there. I told him everything about my past and this and that, and he was there for me the entire way, you know? And I don't know how. Like, people say, well, how did you get that? Or how, man, I don't know. It was just, you meet that one friend or that one person or two people or whatever, and it just clicks. They're just you. They're just you in another body. And yeah, it took me till I was like 40 something years old until, I met V and all that sort of shit. But I don't know. It's like I'm struggling to answer that question of like how. I don't know how. It just happened. And I'm thankful
I'm gonna
every
let you
day
in
that
on
it
a
happened.
secret. It's the title of our topic. It's communication.
Yeah.
and that's the thing, right? Is your ability to communicate to V is what made your relationship special. I look at my relationship with my wife. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you got such a good, healthy relationship with your wife. Like, how did you build it?" I'm like, do you know how long we spoke on the phone when I was in prison? That was pretty much our only way for us to communicate for the first year. Was I never saw Joelle for the first year. A lot of people don't get that. I fell in love with Joelle and I never even saw her. I fell in love with the person that she was on the inside. That's what separates, I think, us from so many other people. I'm not saying it makes me better or makes us better than other people. It just makes us different. Because too often we fall in love with the outside without seeing what's on the inside fully. Because we become transfixed, we become obsessed with the outer shell, and the communication regretfully suffers. You don't have those deeper conversations. Like Joelle and I had so many hard conversations while I was incarcerated, and we've had a lot more since I've gotten out. But that's what's made our bond unbreakable. This is why she is my best friend. This is why she's literally my world, my everything. Like when people are like, "Hey, don't you want to like go hang out with your boys?" Like, weird to say this, but my wife is like, she's that for me. I feel incomplete when she's not there. I feel like my right hand is missing when I'm maybe having a guy's night, which is rare. It might be once a year. And it's not because I can't. My wife's always telling me, yeah, go hang out. Like, no. Because I can't even share the experience with her. That's who I want with me when I go through this. Like, I'm sure you can relate. Like everything you want to do, you want to share with that person. That's why it's so hard for you to move past losing V. There's that survivor's guilt.
Yeah. It's like every time I ride the bike, I wish he was there. And then, as you know, I recently bought a new motorcycle. And it
What?
just, and it just sucks because, I want him to see it. I want him to see me get on this thing, because V would always buy my used motorcycles off me. So all the bikes I would get, I know V would be on it, and he would always take it. So when I got this new one, it was hard to get this new one because I knew V wasn't taking my last one. And yeah, it was just little shit like that makes hard, because like you say, you want to share that with him. Like I was hoping to do that bike hand-me-down thing for the next 20 years.
So you do your little brother, right? He gets
Yeah.
your hand-me-downs. He gets your leftovers.
Yeah, but he would rip me off. Like he wouldn't pay me for all
Oh,
the
yeah, I
extras.
remember you always say that.
Yeah, yeah, all the extra little things I put on the bike. He's like, "Oh man, you shouldn't take that stuff off."
He haggled you.
Yeah,
Yeah, just leave it on there.
Yeah, just leave it on there. It looks better on. What are you going to do? Take it off? You can't put used parts on a new bike. That's just wrong. And like he did it every time, and he would win me over every time. But that's what makes the friendship. That's what just makes it fun, and stuff you want to share, and the memories I have, and the stuff I'll always laugh about with him. Always. I remember when he was buying his house, he was going through my house like it was a Value Village. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't really like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
come on. Like, why don't you give it to me? I need, I got a spare bedroom. I could put that in my spare bedroom.
Yeah. Dude, he went through
You
my
can still
garage.
come and see it.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Tate, what's with that toolkit? You should get yourself a new toolkit. Give me that tool bench. Look at that barbecue. That barbecue's old. Go get yourself a new one. Give that barbecue to me." Like, man, he was going through my house like he was buying shit at a garage sale. Yeah, I wasn't getting any money from him. But it's just stuff that made it funny. And I was more than willing to give him that stuff because he was, buying his first house. He was starting his life and all that. And yeah, it was just, or it's just like you say, maybe it's the communication with that one person that makes you become the best, greatest friends ever,
Memory is more valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. The memories I have with V for the 8-9 years that we were best friends, man, I will carry that forever, ever, ever. And our group of riders, the group of us, talked about him every ride, talk about him all the time. And, and that's what I love. And that's what we'll always do. We'll always bring him up. And every year we get together on the day, I rent that place, and we have an open bar. And the fee to get in, like I always tell people, is you have to bring flowers. You have to bring them to the bouncer, which is V. You got to lay the flowers down, and then you're allowed to come in. And we have a stick that plays videos and pictures, and his parents come. And yeah, it's just, I wouldn't say it's a great time, but it's a happy time because we get to tell stories. We get to see all his friends and his parents absolutely love seeing his former police buddy, military buddy, all his motorcycle buddies. Like his parents absolutely love that. So, yeah.
You're doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, and I'll do that. I'll do that for the rest of my life, and happily I'll do that, you know? So,
What's that old saying, right? Gone but not forgotten.
yeah, 100%, you know?
Well, Jay, thank you for sharing a very, a very sensitive subject,
Yeah.
but I appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners appreciate it. Because again, that's teaching, I think, a lot of the guys that it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to be emotional about someone you care about.
Yeah, and I still hate it. I still struggle with it. And you know that. I hate getting emotional still when I talk about it stuff. I don't know. To me, it just seems wrong. But even though it's normal and it's natural, it's just, I don't know.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's never easy to be emotional as a man, but at least you're able to do it. At least you're not repressing it.
Yeah.
So thank you for being honest with it.
Trust me, I tried the repression thing for about 27 years or 30 years. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just
now you go wash it down with some JD, right? You know, like no, it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for sharing that. So guys, just to wrap up, if you're listening to this and the conversation you've been avoiding has come to mind, right? Maybe you're thinking of that hard conversation you have to have with someone you care about. That's not a coincidence. That is literally the work pointing at itself. That's the task, right? That fear, that's where your task is. You don't need to write a speech. You don't have to have the perfect moment. You just have to say one true sentence. Try it this week. Say one thing you've been avoiding to the person that you've been swallowing it for. Okay, that's your objective this week. So open your mouth this week. Say it imperfectly. That's your task. So guys, thank you for being with us this week for another episode of From Shadows to Strength, and we have more coming. Thank you.